again. Welcome back to the Libertas International podcast. I am so excited to have you with us again on another episode of this show, where you guys come and you guys listen to me speak. Sometimes I have guests. Sometimes it's just me. Sometimes it's other people. But either way, you guys are joining us, listening to the podcast, and I am so grateful for the work that you did that you guys put in, the generosity you guys have shown. Everything helps. I mean, becoming a monthly donor, $5 a month, is hugely helpful to us, and we are so grateful for those donations. When you download the podcast, when you listen to the podcast on your drive to work, when you tell other people about the podcast, all of it helps. All of it is a great benefit to us, and we are so thankful to the generosity of these donors, you donors, for spreading the word about Libertas International, what we're trying to do across Latin America and Colombia. And I just hope you continue to give, because, like we said, we never want to turn a survivor away. And the only way that we make sure that never happens is if you guys continue to be generous with your donations. And so thank you again for your generosity. We live off donations, and so please keep them coming. Today, I want to talk about a very special case. Project Carillo is what it's called. Project Carillo is a case that was very close to my heart, and the survivor continues to thrive. The survivor is just finishing up a soccer tournament in Colombia, and so I was thinking about her and just reflecting on her case and what happened that caused us to get involved, who the bad guys were. I'm only going to mention his first name because it is familial trafficking, and so I won't mention his full name, because we're still supporting the survivor, and she deserves privacy, and the survivor, will call her Leidi. Leidi is the name that we'll use for her today on this podcast when I share this story. And it's a story that's very similar to Project Frankenstein, where I got a call from my partners at Homeland Security that something had gone down, that they needed our support. And so what happened was, during this time, I got a phone call from an agent from the Department of Homeland Security giving me the rundown of this case. And this case is it's truly horrific. It's I've shared a couple of stories on this podcast of familiar trafficking, and it's just something so intimate. It's something so personal to people, and you don't need to be kidnapped and taken to another country to be trafficked, even though that does happen, in some small circumstance, a very small percentage. But the most of the time, you just trafficked inside your own home, or by a loved one, family member. So in this case, the survivor, the Homeland Security, they gave me a call, and they told me about the case. And this guy's name is Ruby. Ruby was famous. He was a narco trafficker. He would transport drugs from Colombia to Venezuela to the United States. And so he actually, he'd been investigated for a long time because of his drug trafficking charges. And he had an alert on him at the airport. And so the agents stopped him, and they arrested him because they found a ton of cocaine on him, and confirmed everything that was reported about him, is that he was a narco trafficker. And when he was arrested, his devices were seized, and that's when the real horror started. The agents opened up his cell phone, trying to find more contact of who he was selling drugs to, and they found images of CSAM. Those of you that don't know, we talked about this on the podcast before, but it's worth reiterating again, is CSAM is child sexual abuse material, child rape videos, essentially. The term child pornography is no longer used with those of us that have studied the issue, that are working on this problem. It's CSAM. Those images are called CSAM because it represents more accurately of what is going on in those videos. It is not pornography involving children. It is sexual abuse material. It's child sexual abuse material. These kids are being raped. They're being abused. And on Ruby's phone, we found that. The agents found that. We did not. It didn't take long for them to be just totally horrified of what they found in this video, on these videos, on these on his hard drive, on his backup, on his cloud, picture of a little girl, 7 years old, who was being abused by Ruby. And it didn't take long to confirm that the girl in this image was his daughter. The agents watched her grow up from ages 7 to 12 in these sexual abuse material pictures and videos. And the mother, who didn't know what was going on, was 100% devastated of what was happening. The mother, she had a cancer diagnosis. She was working a couple different jobs to help make ends meet, to help pay for those medical bills. And when she found out what was happening to her daughter, it was not good. And so our team got involved. Our team got called. We got called that there was a survivor that needed some help, and so we responded. And this family did not trust us at all when we first showed up. Didn't want anything to do with us. Didn't want to talk to us. And we respected that. I mean, we're never going to force our support on anybody. It's always free. It's always no strings attached. But this case broke my heart. Just everything about it, the intimacy of it, the horrific nature of the crime, this man Ruby, everything about it. So I reached out to the mom and I said, I totally get it if you don't want your support, our support. I gave like a rundown of kind of what we do, the education, the healing, the empowerment, all this different stuff. And if she didn't want that, then that's totally cool. That's totally okay. But I pleaded with her. I was like, just please let us get you some groceries. Like, let's get just a month worth of groceries, free of charge. We'll leave it at your door. We don't have to come into your house. We don't have to meet Leidi. We don't have to do anything. Nothing. Just let us support you in this way. Some free groceries for a month, just so you don't have to think about where your next meal is going to come from for at least the next month. And that she agreed to. That was she agreed to that, and she allowed us to support her in that way. And that was really what broke the barrier of trust. That allowed us to support them. It broke us through, and it allowed us to support them because we offered it just free of charge. And we dropped the groceries off. We left, and a couple of days later, she reached out and she was like, "Okay, I do want help." And so we had coffee with Leidi and her mom, and let me just tell you this, dear listener. I hope my mouth is not too close to the mic as I'm speaking, this story and sharing about this amazing survivor. There are a few survivors that I've met in this world that are as incredible as this survivor. Knowledgeable, smart, kind, athletic, just a perfect human being in so many different aspects. Gets great grades, straight A's every semester. Like, we help support her in school with her school supplies and just straight A's every single semester. Every single one. Part of our healing process with her is that she really wanted to start going to the gym, which we believe that the gym is worth supporting. The gym, I believe, is a place of healing. And for survivors of trafficking, we've seen that when they are empowered athletically as well, that they're able to take back control of their body that sometimes they feel like they've lost. And so that happened with Leidi. She took back control of her body. She started working out, started playing soccer, really good soccer player. She's on an all-star team now in a different city in Colombia, participating. I'm not sure if she won or lost, but just walking through this path of healing with sweet Leidi. And we've stayed in touch. She's part of our program. She's an ambassador for us in a way that she helps welcome new survivors into our family to kind of show like what the path of healing can look like. And it came to a pass to where a few months back, I think I shared this in another podcast, I forget, but I received an award from the Colombian government a couple months back called the Shield of DIPRO for our work, not mine, our work, in supporting survivors of human trafficking in Colombia and helping bring those American perpetrators to justice. And Ruby was American. He had dual citizenship. He had triple citizenship. I think he was a resident of Venezuela, Colombia, and the United States. So during this ceremony, I invited Sweet Lady to come and accept the award with me and travel with me to Bogota. And I think Leidi may be president one day of Colombia. She's that well put together. She's that smart. She's that intelligent. At the very least, she's going to be crazy intelligent, wealthy, successful. Because there's just so much potential there as a human being, and it just makes me so furious at what her father did to her. So Leidi's doing great, and she's doing great because she has an amazing aftercare team with her that Libertas International funds, that Libertas International supports, and so I don't mean to plug the donation thing again in the middle of a podcast, but please go to the website, visit libertasfreedom.org, and donate because it's girls like Leidi that you help support. So, a couple of different aspects. We worked on her healing. We worked on her education. We empowered her in a couple of different ways, but there's also the way of justice. And we really wanted Ruby to pay for what he did. So, Ruby was being prosecuted in the city of Miami, where he was arrested. And so the Department of Justice reached out to me, asked if I would help collaborate on the case, if I would come down to court and speak in the sentencing, because everything was on video. He pled guilty, and I had only seen pictures of this guy. I'd never seen him in person, but I traveled down to Miami. They almost didn't let me into the courthouse when I went to Miami because I had an iPad. And I wanted to bring the iPad in. And in some courthouses, every federal courthouse is a little bit different, but in New York, no problem. You can go into the courthouse with an iPad, no problem, and take notes and all that stuff. But in Florida, the guy would not let me in, and so I was afraid that I was going to have to miss the case because of my iPad. And so I asked him to store it. He wouldn't store it. And I was like, if I could, I'm just going to leave it here then, and you guys can deal with it. And he's like, no, we can't do that either. So I ended up having to take it back to my hotel, dropping it off with the reception, and coming back to the courthouse. And I lucky to made it, and by the time I had made it, they'd switched out the security guard. But beside the point, I went into the courthouse, and I'd never seen Ruby before. And I walked in, and I was just stunned of how unimpressive he was. I mean, he's 5'1", blind, but evil. Evil man who had ruined the life of this little girl. And as our aftercare team worked with this little girl, with this amazing survivor, she told us that she didn't know that this was bad, that what he was forcing her to do wasn't bad, because he would tell her, this is how little girls love their dad. And she believed it because in her testimony, she says that there were times where he was a good dad. He was nice. He would play with her. He would play Barbies with her or whatever. And then he was a monster. And she didn't know he was a monster until she went into middle school or sixth grade. I can't remember what grade she was in, but she learned about sexual abuse. They did a class on sexual abuse, and she realized that she was a victim of sexual abuse at the hands of her father. So he was grooming her. He knew what he was doing. He knew that what he was doing was wrong, and he groomed her in that fashion for a number of years. So I see him in court, and just totally unremarkable. And he gave some sob story about how he can't see and how his wife has cancer, and he's still sending her money, which is totally false. He's a total liar. And the judge heard the charges against him, and we worked with it with we have a partner that we work with at the Department of Justice. She's a pro bono attorney. Her name is Ali, and Ali is she's known across the United States for someone who goes after traffickers hard, a trafficker's worst enemy in the justice system. Not only because she gets strong sentences, but because she takes their cash. She looks at their assets. She makes them pay not only with their time but with their wallets. And so she did the same thing with Ruby. And the judges read the charges. He heard what Ruby had to say, and then he heard what I had to say. I went up there, and I told about what a wonderful survivor, girl, student, athlete this survivor was, and she was just born with a shit dad. And it still breaks my heart even talking about this on this podcast, because this sweet survivor, this lady, she deserves so much better than Ruby. And she was born, unfortunately, with a monster in the household. So, the judge heard what I had to say, and then he heard what Leidi had to say. In court, as we'll get into this podcast later, we talk about Project Eternal Spring, Project Bat Bridge, Project Cage Fight, all these different projects and operations and supporting things that we've done. The survivor gets a chance to write a statement, to talk about what their experience was, and how they hope to see justice. And our team walks them through it, because it can be very hard. To write this letter. And the first thing I did when I left court is I called Leidi, let her know what had happened, let her know that I saw him and that I said these things to him. And the last thing he heard before the judge ruled on him was the following letter. So much time has passed. I thought this day would never come. I also thought I would never get the chance to share my true thoughts with you. I had to keep the thoughts to myself because you threatened me. The pain kept me quiet. I was afraid to hurt Mom and to hurt Grandma. I wanted to have a father that was as lovely as a kiss from a rose. A father I could play with, share with, who would sneak me treats under the table, and who I could make some trouble with. When this happened, as a family, which sometimes it did, I was so happy. But it's when I was alone with you that the monster came out. When I was alone with you, I was alone with a monster. You hurt me. You made me feel like trash. And when I cried because of the pain, you didn't care. I wanted to defend myself, but I was 7. And your threats scared me. I had to be quiet. I never understood why. At my age, I wanted to play with dolls, watch princess shows, take funny selfies with you. But the pictures you took of me weren't pretty, and they weren't nice. And worse, you shared those pictures with other monsters just like yourself. You will never understand my suffering. When I was at school and the horror returned of what my father was doing always comes to my mind. Why did you never love me as your daughter? Why did you see me as this object? Why was your love always conditional and dependent on the perverse acts you forced on me? Today, justice is being done. Not just for me, but for the other girls I am sure you hurt. I saw the pictures of you abusing them. You showed me. And tried to convince me that it was normal to rape little girls. And then you would force me to do the things that I would see in the pictures. Thanks to my Father in heaven, and I now have a team of loving adults, many of who are men, who are helping me move on and move forward from this. But my mind is on the other girls you hurt. You are sick. You are evil. I pray that the other girls have found or will find their voice, the same as I have. Never again will I allow a suffering girl to suffer alone in silence or fear. What you did to me hurt my body, but it hurt my heart more. Because of this, when I am grown, I hope to help little girls just like me, to save girls just like me, to heal girls just like me, because girls like me don't deserve that someone like you takes away our childhood. When I grow up, I want to save girls from monsters just like you, Dad. So that's even now reading that, I'm just so proud of this sweet survivor and her finding her voice in this way. And that last sentence, from monsters just like you, Dad, because he had other victims. When Libertas posted about his sentencing, people reached out. Other people that were scared of him, that have been abused by him, and probably to this point, he's probably the most dangerous person that we've helped put behind bars. But it wasn't us. It was Libertas helped. The police agencies that we worked with supported us. And more than anything, this brave survivor, Leidi, is once again the true hero in this story. Leidi, she holds a special place for me. She coined a nickname that a couple local newspapers ran with, and she calls me Captain Colombia, which is, not accurate at all, but it means a lot that it came from her. She's a great artist. She drew an amazing picture of a guy that looks nothing like me. That's Captain Colombia, and all I can tell you is it's just such an honor to work with survivors like Leidi every single day. The judge heard the letter, and sentenced Ruby to 24 years in federal prison. Ruby's in his mid-50s. So when he gets out, he will be a feeble old man, and he will be a registered sex offender for the rest of his life. There's healing in the justice system. When the justice system works, when you have the power of the law, when you have good attorneys, when you have good partners, when you have good police agents, when you have all these things, justice is possible. And in this case of Project Carillo, our final stats were 1 arrested, 1 recovered. We don't use the word rescue. We'll use the word rescue when it's urgent, when we need funding now, quickly to remove someone from a situation of exploitation. But rescue, I believe that Leidi rescued herself. I believe that Leidi rescues herself every day. She decides to get up, to get good grades, to pursue something that brings her happiness. I think Leidi saves herself every single day. And you'll see a lot of different nonprofits. It's a thing that nonprofits do. We invest in different police agencies, and they kick out some stats, and you might see some big numbers every once in a while. But in this case, Project Carillo, 1 recovered, 1 arrested, and we're proud of that number. We are grateful that we have someone like Leidi in our lives, that we're able to support her, and that we're able to wrap our services around her to provide healing, empowerment, and justice on her behalf. And so Ruby will spend the next 24 years in jail, and Leidi will continue to thrive, as she's always done and will continue to do, with the help of all of us at Libertas International. And once again, this only happens because of your generosity. This only happens because you guys have chosen to subscribe to this podcast, that you guys give monthly, that you guys donate, that you guys support us in these different ways that help us to empower these survivors. And so I'm going to plead with you again to keep doing it. Please keep giving. Please keep supporting, because your donations are saving lives. Your donations provide healing, empowerment, and justice for survivors like Leidi, who, when she grows up, wants to be a police officer, so that one day she can save little girls from monsters just like her dad. This is Tyler signing off from the Libertas International podcast. Please visit us online and have a great night.